Welcome to America's National Park of Speed, Road America in Wisconsin. It's time for round 7 of 17 in the 2024 NTT IndyCar Series season. Always one of our favorite stops. Practice 1 is now. 27 drivers are strapped in, but there is a surprise, and that's where we start with news of the day that really began last Sunday, lap 60. In the race at Detroit, contact between Arrow McLaren's Teo Pourchaire and Juncos Hollinger race Augustine Canapino has been the catalyst for several news items this week. Pourchaire was penalized. He took accountability for the avoidable contact, but Monday night said he had received online abuse, including death threats. Canapino said that while he was against abuse and hate, he had not seen any death threats, and he also liked a post that appeared to make light of the situation. Canapino also referred to receiving online abuse, and worth remembering last year when JHR experienced similar instances with former driver Callum Ilott after incidents with Canapino at Long Beach and Laguna Seca. Both teams have condemned the social hate with statements, and yesterday, Arrow McLaren also severed its commercial alliance with Juncos Hollinger Racing that allowed space on the JHA cars for McLaren partners. And then today, about 30 minutes ago, Nolan Siegel jumped out of his Indy Next car during practice, came running up to the Juncos Hollinger tent, and he is stepping in for Augustine Canapino this weekend, who is taking a leave of absence from the team. Nothing is defined beyond this weekend, and here's the statement by Juncos Hollinger Racing from Brad Hollinger, the co-owner of Juncos Hollinger Racing. So, Nolan Siegel is going to be in the car this weekend. There's a lot to unpack here, Hinch. Where do we start?
Yeah, I mean, arguably too much. We may have a 75-minute session, but I'm not sure we have enough time to cover it all. It's so bizarre, Kev, that we find ourselves in another situation where a grid for a race is being dictated and decided by something happening online. We're a racing series. We're supposed to be talking about happenings on track, not off it. It's such a shame because there are no winners in this. I mean, even Nolan Siegel, who, you want to talk about how late this is coming to happen. He's still getting fitted in the race car. We're green flag on the session.
Yeah.
Nolan's not even fit in the race car yet, but it's an unfortunate situation top to bottom. And look, this is a developing situation. I don't think we've heard the last of how this is all going to play out. Let's take a look at the track map as we zoom in on the 4 miles that make up this 14-turn track. Lots of elevation change as well. Downhill from 3 to 5, uphill from 5 to 6, back down from 7 to 8. The famous carousel, of course, one of the most difficult long-duration corners on the calendar. We saw the Canada corner, scenes of lots of passing opportunities. And turn 14, the final corner, so important for that run to the finish, but also one we've seen catch out drivers a ton, be it in practice, qualifying, or the race. Good mix of high speed, good mix of low speed, but crucially, it's one of those tracks where drivers really feel like they can pass. There's a lot of good passing opportunities here at Road America.
So that's not the only news that we have today. Last week, we learned that there was a change coming to the number 66. Meyer Shank Racing Honda. Elio Castroneves was in for 2 races. At the time, it was officially stated that Tom Blomqvist will not race the next 2, and then it's TBD. We all kind of guessed that this was probably headed to finality, and it was confirmed this morning. David Malukas will step in this car starting in 2 weeks at Laguna Seca and will finish the season. Tom Blomqvist remains a part of the team, and the heavy speculation is that Meyer Shank will return to the top level of IMSA next season. That's not been confirmed with the team, but when they say that he's going to remain a part of the organization, that makes a lot of sense. They'll slot him into their IMSA program next year. So for David Malukas, he goes from getting his dream ride with Arrow McLaren to falling off a bike, never getting to do a race, to still getting a pretty good opportunity because Felix Rosenqvist has really helped elevate this program this year.
Yeah, I mean, the team overall has been operating at a much higher level than what we've seen really since Jack Harvey left. And on top of that, there's a couple tracks in the second half of the season that a lot of people think are really going to suit David Malukas. His 2 career podiums have both come on short ovals. Well, the same short oval at Gateway, that's on the calendar. But of course, we've got the doubleheader at both Milwaukee and Iowa, 2 other tracks that he has been competitive at in the past. So Georgia, you got to think that David Maluka is pretty happy with the schedule, the way it's worked out.
Now, I think the smile says it all there. David, huge news announced today. You'll be joining Meyer Shank in the 66 car. Let's talk about the raw emotion throughout the season and the opportunity to join.
Yeah, I mean, the season started off with a real high, and then obviously went to a really big low, and, had to, stay strong and just keep smiling and knowing that, greatness comes to those who wait, and opportunities will come. And, it came a lot quicker than I was expecting, and I'm here for it. Hands ready, everybody's ready, and I'm just so happy for the opportunity.
Now, just how long ago did this deal come together?
I mean, it all kind of happened in the span of just a few days. I mean, the talks really started after the 500, and then, going from pen to paper, it was like 10 days. It was pretty crazy. Now,
those 10 days have also been crazy for you. What all entailed to get cleared and ready to jump into a car?
Yeah, all that got put on hold after the termination, so, we thought we weren't going to ride this season, and then when we had this opportunity come up, I had to go back to all the doctors and be like, hey, just kidding, I am actually going to be driving. So I went through all the clearance tests to make sure that everybody gives a thumbs up, which all the doctors did, and now we're going to be driving here very soon.
David Malukas will watch Elio Castroneves pilot that 66 until he gets the opportunity to jump in.
For this guy, another driver change. Luca Giotto back in the number 51 for Dale Coyne Racing.
He did 2 races. He did Barber and the Indy Road Course. So we're still at 88 for the number of Dale Coyne drivers over the years.
Right.
Russ Thompson did the math on that last week. 88.
Tristan Vautier was the one in Detroit, as we see Christian Lundgaard having a little moment, having a bit of fun there, coming out of the last corner. I said it on the track preview. Turn 14, catches guys out, practice, qualifying, and the race. Lundgaard, an innocent spin. Normally you don't get away with just kind of keeping it on the racetrack there, but this young man had a pretty fierce race going in Detroit a week ago. One of the drivers that wanted to stick it out in the wet. Let's see what happens here through turn 13. The car gets very light. The engine dead, rolls it back around, drops the clutch, bump starts himself. Pretty heads up there from him, but man, so lucky to not have it hook driver's left into the wall or carry all the way to the outside barrier, which is what you often see within an incident there.
And didn't even pit. Yeah, maybe nobody noticed. I'll just keep going. By the way, I did go back to the release, and Malukas will be in the car on Tuesday, so that's quite beneficial for him. And for Giotto, he is also confirmed for Laguna Seca, so they'll have the same driver for back-to-back weeks, and then Dale Coyne will go back to work, working on that entry for the rest of the season. And one of the options he had was David Malukas.
Oh, another one around. That's Christian Rasmussen. That looks like it might be the final turn once again. And he is going to elect to go straight into the pits. So already turn 14 proving a bit of an issue with Will Buxton. Oh, we got a car in the wall. That's the 77 of Romain Grosjean. And that looks like it might be... I'm trying to see what that is. Guys, I hate to say it, I think it might be the final turn.
So while they prepare a car for a new driver back in the tent, they have a little bit of repair to come for their other driver, Romain Grosjean. Hopefully not too much, maybe just a front wing and extricating some gravel.
Yeah, definitely not just a front wing. You can see the left front completely folded over. I mean, he's all the way in up to the start of the aero screen.
Ooh.
That is a sizable amount of damage. As you said, a pair of pairs for the JHR squad. A prepare and a repair.
Well, and for Romain, who wanted to quickly forget last year, that was a rough weekend. At least certainly a rough race day for him with a lot of off-track excursions. And this is a place where he had been good at. He had run well the first 2 years he was here. Last year, it did not go well. Finished 5th and 4th in 21 and 22, and last year finished a lap down.
Luckily, driver looks okay. Getting out of the car under his own power. AMR safety team, as always, there. So let's take a look at what happened on the brakes. Turning, just got in hot. Understeered right into the wall. You can see the car's just almost skipping across the gravel, not really slowing down much, but luckily the tire barrier is doing their job. Photographer there was happy with his viewing spot for that one. But yeah, it's, obviously you're sort of it's a combined grip braking zone. You're turning slightly already to the right as you get onto the brake pedal there. It's not a hard brake, but you do have to charge the entry, and you just locked up that right front, skipped across the gravel, and very, very tough when you have a 75-minute session to go out that early. You only have the 45-minute session left. But
hey, there's Nolan Siegel in the 78. If you're just joining us, you've missed a lot, so you might want to go back and watch the replay on archive after we're done. But about 30 minutes before this practice session began, a deal was finalized for Nolan Siegel, and apparently the conversation really only started an hour and a half ago. Augustine Canapino is or was here, but is not going to race this weekend. That's the only news we have at this point, and Nolan Siegel has been asked to step in. The team has put out a statement, and there are ongoing conversations regarding social media and comments from fans and statements from the team that Canapino doesn't feel super comfortable right now, so he's going to sit this one out, and Nolan Siegel is going to do double duty.
And if that wasn't a daunting enough task, Georgia, with Romain Grosjean now out of the session, all of JHR's information gathering is going to be coming from this young driver. But I gather you've caught up with Grosjean.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk to the other Juncos Hollinger Racing driver, Romain Grosjean. First and foremost, are you okay, and what happened?
Yeah, all good. Things didn't go to plan, so we're going to look at data, analyze everything in the car, and let's see if we can go back out today. I think the front left was damaged, but the rest should be all right. So I was just looking at Nolan and seeing that he's following Palou, so he's learning from one of the best, so that's good for the team.
If you can't get back out today, how does this affect practice session 2?
Especially tomorrow, the weather doesn't look great, so it's not ideal, but it is what it is, so now we just have to do with it.
Thanks, Romain.
Let's take a Kyle Kirkwood, same corner that we've seen all the issues in so far, down into 14. Big wiggle mid-corner, and then when he hit that curb, it just bottomed the car out, launched him into the air. The front of that car, you just watch here, front tires just pop off. Innocent trip through the gravel there.
And then Will Power. Will is always good in early practices at exploring the limits. And usually it's a no harm, no foul kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like this.
As it is there. Just a big amount of understeer coming up over that crest of the hill in turn 6. Now Marcus Ericsson in the 28 for Andretti Global, just fighting the back of that car. Not too dissimilar actually from Kyle Kirkwood, his teammate. And then again in the final corner, Joseph Newgarden, all the curb and then some, just dipping the shoulder of the left rear tire into the dirt. The dirt's not the problem, it's the oversteer, the correction that slows you down on power. Just kills your run up this massively long straightaway.
All right, let's go back to pit lane. And Georgia.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier, the 21 of Rinus VeeKay, currently 10th on the board, having some unexpected issues. Let's listen in.
Lights are acting a bit weird. Copy, we'll look at him. Picking up a little vibration.
Just how frustrating could this be, Hinch?
Honestly, it's so tough. You know, having shift lights is a super critical thing at a track, especially as long as Road America, these big long straightaways. If you don't hit the shift points exactly correctly, you're outside of the window of where the motor's making the best power. And again, on these long straightaways, that just adds to free lap time. So, you know, sometimes drivers lose the dash completely and they don't have shift lights. And people say, oh, well, come on, you're a professional. You should know when to shift the car. It's like, yeah, you can do it, but it's just not going to be quick or efficient. Yeah. And, you know, in a series like this, you need to maximize every 100th of a second. So hopefully just a simple coding issue or something we can plug in the laptop and figure out in no time.
Colton Herta in the Gainbridge Honda. Second quick so far, just a couple of hundredths off Joseph Newgarden. Got some heavy hitters up top. Early on, Newgarden, Herta, Palou, Award, Lundgaard, Rosenquist, Graham Rahal looking good so far. Just to compare last year's practice 1 times, 1:41.7 was the fastest by Alexander Rossi. Now, we're not there yet. and they're still going to have the alternates. What's the alternate worth on a big track like this?
Could be upwards of a second,
Yeah.
certainly. You know, again, because like we said, just a little bit of grip in one of those key corners, a little bit more minimum speed. That speed advantage carries the whole way down the straightaway, so it really can add up here. As Colton Herta goes to the top with a 1:43.3, just a couple hundredths quicker than Newgarden. I mean, look at those names at the top. This series is so stacked right now. Herta, Newgarden, Palou, Ward, Lundgaard, Dixon. This is such a competitive championship at the moment. Graham looking for a strong result. It hasn't really been the start of the year. He was hoping only one result inside the top 10 so far in 2024. That was at the Indy GP. Oh, big slide from Graham through turn 13 on the entry. That's a rare place to have that kind of moment. Normally they come later in the corner. It's just ever so slightly uphill. You can't even see the apex curve when you initially turn in. And as the track flattens over the top there's a bit of a bump. It can upset the car. Good catch from Graham. Let's try to take another little look at that from the outside here. And yeah, that's a quick corner again. You're just hitting fifth gear. Great catch from Graham. After we've seen so many drivers get it wrong through there. Misses the apex a bit for 14. Well, that's kind of understandable. Straightaways, it can really make a difference. This is definitely a horsepower track. Here's Ericsson just chasing it through turn 6. You want to use all the curves here because it's free radius through the corner, but they are not forgiving in some places. They're very rough, very bumpy. They really upset the car sometimes. It looks all smooth and comfortable right there, but I can tell you, outside of turn 5, where he just went through, outside of turn 6 here, outside of 7, all of these curves really shake the car, shake the driver. It feels like you're rattling your teeth out of your skull sometimes.
Let's see how Will Power's going. He's 12th on the board in this session.
Powers won here before, back in 2016. Sorry, that was Pole back in 2016. Won the race as well.
You were right originally.
When you have these long straightaways, it's sometimes so hard to pick your break point for those big break zones, whether it's into 1, into 5, into 12. You just have so much time to think about it. Fighting the on power. You can see how much the tire vibrates when you go across those curves. Just kind of shows you how violent it is.
So things going smoothly for Will Power in this practice session.
We're going to take a look back now at the young Dutchman, Rinus VK, down into 5. A little bit of rear lock, a little bit of front lock. Going to go way wide there. Luckily, lots of pavement before you get to that gravel trap. But again, you got to drive back across those vicious bumps. Ugh, that doesn't feel good from inside the car, I can tell you.
Let's see how Will Power's going. He's 12th on the board in this session.
Powers won here before, back in 2016. Sorry, that was Pole back in 2016. Won the race as well.
You were right originally.
When you have these long straightaways, it's sometimes so hard to pick your break point for those big break zones, whether it's into 1, into 5, into 12. You just have so much time to think about it. Fighting the on power. You can see how much the tire vibrates when you go across those curves. Just kind of shows you how violent it is.
So things going smoothly for Will Power in this practice session. And then there was last year when it went less than smoothly for Power. That's Scott Dixon on his right. Romain Grosjean up ahead. Dixon gets out of Grosjean's way after he had spun. Is trying to stay out of Power's way. Didn't see him trailing, and they come together. That's a massive crash for both cars.
Yeah, I mean, straight into bare concrete, no tires, no Armco, no safer wall. As we watch Will Power taking a little run through the grass in turn 14. But yeah, it was one of those, ironically, Dixon was trying to get out of the way and get off the racing line, so Power had a clear run into turn 13. Just simply timed it wrong. Big damage for both cars. Take another look at what happened there at Power. Yeah. Very reminiscent of the Andretti Global cars with Ericsson and Kirkwood. Just a little bit loose mid-corner, carrying in a lot of speed. Scott Dixon, big time over the exit curb of 13, then digging through the grass here across the 14. Oh, great save. Look at how strong the wings are in an IndyCar. That's incredible.
What happened to Marcus Armstrong here? A little wide.
That's what it's there for.
That's right.
Turn 1's a deceptively fast corner. When you walk it, you don't think it's going to be anywhere near as quick as it ends up being in the race car. Armstrong there, fresh off his first IndyCar Series podium last week out in Detroit. We saw McLaughlin there weaving back and forth. I thought maybe he was warming up his reds, but I think he was getting maybe some dirt and gravel off the tires. Here you see him going off top of the hill in turn 6. Tell you what, guys, just look at some of the lap times. Alex Rossi just pit, setting a lap of a 144.2. His best lap so far is a 144.1. Only a 10th off, 11 laps into a set of tires. That's very encouraging for the number 7. Oh, whoa, again. Just a little bit in the dirt, and then you, as a driver, you look down at your dash and you just see the lap time delta going the wrong direction the whole way. You're like, just get me to turn 1 so I can stop the bleeding.
He may not see that though. Isn't he one that doesn't have that?
In qualifying, he turns it off for sure.
Just in qualifying.
I don't know if he does it in practice or not. But yeah, as they say, if you're going sideways, you're not going forwards. So it looks cool, but it's slow.
What is the heart rate like, or what's the feeling like? Because for a brief moment, you don't know whether you're going into the wall or not.
It's so funny. You often can just feel if it's one that's really not a big deal. It looks maybe a bit spectacular from in the car. You comfortably know you've got it. And then there's the odd one, especially when you get up on curbs and the wheels are being unloaded. The bottom of the car is bottoming out on a curb. It becomes very unpredictable, and it's those unpredictable ones that give you that heart in the throat moment. This car is one of them is Théo Pourchaire in the number 6 for the rest of the season.
This seems like it could be a weekend where he could really show his potential. Everyone tells me, and you can explain more, that this has more of the characteristics of tracks that he's used to racing on.
Well, look, I think when he got to Detroit, it was a bit of a culture shock in terms of the surface and what a race car feels like on a racetrack. But here are some of the tracks in Europe.
How about Spa? That's the one that they compare to this one the most.
They call it the Spa of North America. And so, yeah, there's every belief that he could be competitive. Because, look, he had awesome pace in Detroit. I think he was honestly the strongest car in the McLaren stable throughout the weekend on average. Yeah, the race had some ups and downs, but still completed it with a bent car. Steering wheel looked like it was 20 degrees askew for half the race. But he really put together a very solid performance. So turning his first laps here, but as you say, a little more familiar just in the style and feel of this racetrack. And he will just get quicker every lap and every session. Big commitment there in 13. A little bit late in the session. But we're seeing a replay from Pato going into the last corner. Dare I say we have another
the last
victim?
corner, you say?
Yeah. That should have been the drinking game this practice session. Every time we say turn 14, you'd be having yourself a heck of an afternoon. And again, just a little bit too much rolling speed. If you don't get the front to turn in as sharp as you want right at the get-go, you end up half a car width too wide.
Well, it has not been all rainbows and butterflies for Scott McLaughlin today. Let's listen into his radio.
Hey man, this thing is just a pig. It's better a little bit in the slow speed. I just now can't put the power down. Okay, copy. We're in slow speed, mid-corner, but now the high speeds don't really lose. I don't know whether it's just tires, but yeah.
Yeah, those are strong words of displeasement from Scott McLaughlin.
Yeah, it seems like he's struggling with all sorts of things, Georgia. It's a little bit easier for a driver when you're just battling one issue with the race car. You know from an engineering standpoint what you need to attack, but when you have multiple issues, different high speed from low speed, it can be a real challenge. And that's sometimes just what happens at this racetrack. Nature of the beast here, you can just feel out of the window, and the lap time is just so far off. But conversely, a small change that kind of brings the car back into the window can have a monumental improvement in your time. I mean, McLaughlin's 18th right now, a 1:44.4, so a little over a second off the pace. But even a small change that improves the balance, we talked about it earlier, that can have a 4, 5, 10th difference on lap time, something that maybe would find you a 10th at a Barber or at a St. Pete, can really just have a massive effect at this racetrack.
So, practice 1 is done, and Alex Palou is where he ended the race last year. P1, and here's what we've got coming up tomorrow. Another practice at 11:10 Eastern, qualifying at 3:25. Busy day for Nolan Siegel on Sunday. IndyCar warm-up, straight into the Indy Next race, straight back into the IndyCar race. He is doing double duty, stepping into the Juncos Hollinger number 78 Chevy for Augustine Canapino. And fortunate that he's got a green race suit, so he fits right in with the colors. Here are the results for practice 1, Hinch.
Some familiar names up top. Your defending race winner, Alex Palou, Colton Herta, multiple pole sitter here. Then Santino Ferrucci, what a great effort from the young driver from Connecticut. Joseph Newgard and Christian Lundgaard continuing that impressive form for Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing on the road courses.
Some of the other top teams you see, Rossi in 16th, Ericsson in 20th. No huge surprises down there. Grosjean with the crash on his first lap.